Chapter 5. I wish for you all to rest in peace. 1. This item. An intense gleam appeared in Xu Qing's eyes. The image of that perfectly enamaged corpse before he had taken the purple crystal away appeared in his mind. It can allow corpses to be enamaged and allow the living to heal quicker. Xu Qing grabbed the purple crystal as he surveyed the surroundings rapidly with an increased heart rate. Although he knew that there shouldn't be other people alive in this area, he was still instinctively vigilant due to obtaining a treasure. At this moment, he couldn't stay here anymore. He swiftly sped off back to the cave where he stayed earlier. On the journey back, he faintly discovered that not only did his injuries heal at a rapid pace, but even the physical fatigue he felt was much lesser. In the past, when he sprinted like this, he would have to slow down roughly an hour later. But now, despite having sprinted for over an hour, he still felt that his body was worn and he had an abundance of stamina. In fact, on his way back, he even casually caught a bird that landed on the ground. He didn't kill the bird but knocked it unconscious instead because the preservation period for living things was longer. Even after doing these, the amount of time he used to reach the cave was much quicker than before. There was still some time before nightfall, but he already saw his cave in the nearby distance. Xu Month's mood was unprecedentedly good. However, he wasn't careless, because he knew that maybe it was due to the god opening its eyes. Or when the forbidden zone was initially formed, the nearby areas during the night would have other bizarre existences appearing other than the awakening of mutated beasts. When in the slums, he heard people saying that many places in the world where death gathered would eventually produce such bizarre existences. For example, the eerie laughter that rang out during the night from outside the cave was precisely from such an existence. With regards to such existences, everyone knew not to look, not to touch, and not to meet them. Although his past experiences told him that these existences only appeared at night, Xu Qing couldn't be sure whether they would occasionally appear during the day or not. Hence, he didn't reduce his speed in the slightest. He soon arrived at the cave, and the moment he entered, he immediately blockaded the entrance. After that, he sat down cross-legged and opened his palm that was tightly clenched. The purple light spread from his palm, illuminating this tiny cave. Under the light, Xu Qing's eyes and face seemed to be dyed purple as well. He stared at the purple crystal in his hand unblinkingly. This crystal was rectangular-shaped and roughly the size of his finger. There was some flocule in the crystal, and that was the source of the purple light. Healing wounds, Xu Qing observed for a long time. He then opened his shirt and glanced at the wound on his chest. He discovered that the wound was now 90% healed. Right now, the remaining wound seemed like it would heal completely after a short amount of time. In fact, even the scar at the edge of the wound was disappearing. He then thought back to his sprint and the feeling of being much less fatigued compared to the past. After that, Xu Qing roughly had an initial judgment of this purple crystal. The effect of this item was evidently recovery. It caused his wound and stamina to recover, including his vitality. I wonder if it has any other effects, Xu Qing mumbled as contemplation shone in his gaze. He didn't know whether this purple crystal had a connection with the act of the god opening its eyes, but most probably, there should be one. No matter what, this was a supreme treasure. At the very least, ever since Xu Qing was young until now, he had never heard of any items that possessed such shocking recovery prowess. By having such an item on him, the help it provided was equivalent to him having a second life. However, Xu Qing was very clear that he was able to possess this item only because there was no one alive other than him in this city. Once the blood rain ended and he exited this place, most probably wouldn't have the strength to protect such a treasure. So, the only solution was to hide this purple crystal. Xu Qing fell silent for a long while. He cast a glance at the unconscious bird he had caught and lifted his hand to grab it over. After squeezing its beak to ensure it couldn't make any sound, he then took out the dagger on his thigh and directly sliced open a wound on the bird's body. As the bird struggled, Xu Qing stuffed the purple crystal inside it. After that, he observed it with meticulous attention. He saw that at the start, the bird was still struggling, but very soon, undercurrents surged from all directions. It was as though spirit energy was being drawn over. In fact, the amount of spirit energy was even more in comparison to what Xu Qing had gathered when he cultivated. The spirit energy then gushed into the bird's body, and right now, the intensity of the bird's struggle grew stronger by many times. Despite Xu Qing using his full strength, he felt that he actually could no longer control the bird so easily. This scene caused the light in Xu Qing's eyes to intensify. In the past, he could easily crush the neck of a bird with a gentle squeeze. But at this moment, he had to use the entirety of his strength to squeeze it several times before he managed to crush the bird's neck. He then swiftly took the purple crystal out and wiped it before closing his eyes to contemplate. The bird didn't die. On the contrary, spirit energy flooded its body and its strength suddenly became extremely great. There should be no worries. A moment later, Xu Qing opened his eyes. His eyes now gleamed with determination, and he directly stuffed the purple crystal into his wound that had yet to recover fully. The process of stuffing it inside was somewhat painful, but Xu Qing endured the pain by gritting his teeth. There was no place safer than hiding something inside the body. Also, he did a simple test, and it seemed that this item would have better effects by placing it within his body. As the purple crystal fused into his body and as his wound closed up, a rumbling sound echoed from within his body before Xu Qing could take a closer look. An even greater amount of spirit energy compared to what the bird had absorbed earlier began flooding force directly from all directions, even seeping through the soul to reach him. The spirit energy was too shocking. Hence, Xu Qing's body instantly glowed with a faint blue color as an indescribable chill coursed through his entire body. This was due to the great amount of anomalous substances within the spirit energy. However, Xu Qing was long prepared. At this moment, he didn't hesitate to directly circulate his energy according to the mountains and seas art.